What's going on, everybody? We are back. Hey, Bad Publicity here, looking at the tier list. Even so soon after the first tier list dropped, we're making updates already. When we said it was going to be a living list, we don't lie. So if everybody wants to pull out their playbooks and their score sheets to follow along at home, you have the links in the description to look at what we are building, this work of art. Gentlemen, what's going on?
Doing great, man.
Yeah, you said we don't lie, but I don't think people realize how often that we do lie, which is fine. They don't really need to know that, except for now when I just explain how much. You know what? I'm gonna shut up now. I'm just gonna shut up. No.
Wow.
Yep,
I don't even know where that was going.
I didn't know going into it. I just figured I would just stop before.
Yeah.
So we're looking at Station 1 today. You guys have
That's
any
right.
overall thoughts? Like before we dive into this, are we excited to see, where this new criminal ID will land? Any excitement as we go into this?
I mean, I guess we'll see as we go through the cards, right? You don't want to spoil anything. Give it away.
Yeah, we don't. But I mean, if you hear the current tone of my voice, you probably can guess what I'll end up thinking. But yeah, we don't want to spoil anything.
Yeah. I mean, you hate everything.
Every like 80% of the cards belong on the terrible side of the. Yeah.
They all come in guilty until proven innocent.
Right.
Like, like you're just like you're a terrible card until you can show me where you're useful.
Netrunner cards, I feel like, are akin to like black people getting pulled over by cops in America. Like basically, you're in trouble until like you prove that you're not. Probably hit really, really, really deep for some people.
Yeah. Jeez, man.
Had to take it there, man. It's hard out here. Hard. It's hard to be a card out here, man.
Yeah, it's hard out there for the cards.
It's hard out there to be a card, bro. It's not easy.
We just went deep, and let's come up for air now and get back into this. I appreciate everyone. The live streams are piling in. These are either people that don't know Chappelle has two specials on Netflix, or people that have already watched them already that are joining us.
They're both very entertaining.
Yeah, we appreciate it. As the world soaks up some Dave Chappelle. Isn't it funny? Everyone made fun of him when he walked away from like $40 million,
and now
you got 60 because you waited a couple years.
It's insane. Like I think. And also, I saw like his interview with Jimmy Kimmel.
Oh yeah, that was
like,
good.
Not about Netrunner.
Yeah.
But he said basically like these were kind of already like recorded or already written.
Yeah.
So he basically they offered him 60 million, and he's like, good for three of them. All right, well I've got two ready, so I'll just we'll wait a bit, and then I'll get that third one out to you.
Yeah, I get that.
Thanks.
I'll get it out to you. Yeah.
Crazy.
But he's still so good.
Good times.
All right, we're flipping back to the reason why the people come. If you build it, they will come. All right, so let's take a look at where we stand with the tier list. Appreciate the feedback we got on it. Seems pretty positive. A lot of people questioning some placements where we like healthy discussion. But let's see how this evolves as we go forward here now. All right, first up, who wants to take this?
I'll dive in.
All
we're
right.
gonna kick off with the runner side.
Yep, first.
And the first card in the pack is Savernius Stem Implant. So this is a new cybernetics. We haven't had one of these in quite some time. Hardware, obviously. Install 2, influence 4. Click, make a run on R&D or HQ, and trash 2 or more cards from your grip. Whenever you access cards from that server, access 1 additional card for every 2 cards trashed. I'm initially very lukewarm to meh on this. I think especially because you have to pitch the cards. before you even know it's going to be a successful run. But it is a cybernetics that doesn't immediately deal damage to you when you install it. So there's that. It's like it waits later till you fire on the implants and you get juiced. Then you gotta pitch cards.
Hollis, what's your feelings here?
Juiced. Yeah, no, I'm with Corey on this. I'm not very excited about this, and I think it's because in general, cards, runner corp side, it doesn't matter which side you're looking at. Cards are incredibly powerful and important. For I know that sounds like a really obvious statement, right? But the truth is that when you combine the fact that your cards are anything from letting you gain 4 credits to 6 credits to making a run and protecting yourself from something else that's bad that could happen, it feels like it's smarter or probably better to go with another card that allows you to get multi-access. Now, to me, the real big benefit with this card, of course, is the fact that it is a piece of it's a hardware, right?
Yeah,
a piece of hardware. So the best thing about this is that you can sit it on the table, and it's something that is always in play that you can use at any time, but getting rid of 2 cards in your hand for one additional card that you access, this is in the same faction as medium, and so I really am not convinced this card is really the best option here. At best, right, it replaces cards like legwork, but you have to ask yourself, are things like that even necessary when the meta seems so defined by a card like medium?
Yeah, it's definitely picking up a theme of anarchs apparently pitching cards. Or just it seems like the last 2 cards they had just required you just to throw shit out of your hand to do stuff. And it's like they really want Anarch players to get murdered by Jinteki players or the guys who play Snare in all the decks.
You know what I feel like is they just want to. I think they want to wipe everybody's memory of the original Anarch breakers and how good they were, and they want everybody to use these new ones that recur from archives. So it's that style, right? We're still like, let's pitch all our cards, and we'll get them back. Don't worry about it. Hollis mentioned to me what is the selling feature here. It's multi-access hardware in Anarch. It's Anarch flavored, but I don't know if the payoff is worth what you have to. If the reward is worth the cost, right? What's the best case scenario? You start your turn with 5 cards, you draw up 3 and then run, and then, so you're at 8, and then you just start how many of those cards are you going to ditch past 2,
right,
to get an access?
Well, I don't even know if I would ever really. I mean, it feels like this is sort of the glory run option, right? you could do, if this card's in play, you can set up something absurd or ridiculous where you could say, you know what, I don't know if you have anything in HQ, but I gotta try to hit everything that I can. So draw, I'm at 5 cards, draw to 6, draw to 7, draw to 8, and I'm making my run, and I'm gonna just trash everything, and I'll access the 4 cards or 3 cards, whatever the number is.
It would be 5, 5, because 4 additional, right? If you trash your whole hand after that.
Yeah, right. So I mean, I feel like if you really want to make, if that glory run scenario happens, where you're confident they've got something, and instead of pressing, instead of trying to depend on RNG, hitting 1 card at a time, maybe this is just the right answer. If you just need to just give everything away, and you want to just try to access as many cards you can at once. I mean, the obvious benefit also is that this card only costs 2. It's not a very huge tempo hit, so to get it in play. So while I don't really like it that much, there's some unique potential here to access cards when I would say, quote, you probably have no business normally accessing them. And I think the power here is maybe just the use of it on HQ, not so much the use of it on RD.
Yeah, and I don't know where this is going to sit from a perspective of where multi-access will go. And I mean, I think that's when cards like this will get their second look. Like 4 influence for this right now. I mean,
Yeah.
like maybe the place that it wants to be used is in Shaper, where recursion is easier to get this stuff back. But
Right.
What's really weird about this too is like it's cybernetics, but it doesn't seem like it synergizes with Chrome Parlor or Chrome Shop or whatever. And so it's like, why does that card even exist? Like, you're still not giving anything to really like fire or benefit off that card. So
I don't know. I don't know either, man.
I feel like this
mean,
is like a good chance to kind of keep building off that theme, and then this card completely avoids it.
I mean, I think the points saying that medium is in faction and it's a lot bigger of a threat, because even for the runner to deal with it, if they don't do program destruction, they're spending turns to wipe viruses. So you're also creating issues with tempo for them. This one here is just, like I said, I don't think you'll be looking at it until like the rest of them cycle out, right? Like the interfaces or legwork, that kind of stuff, right? So it all depends what our options are for multi-access later, but if this is the blueprint, we might be in trouble.
Yeah.
So where do you guys, slotting this in?
So my vote is for below average.
I see it sitting in below average as well. I see it sitting under Maw.
I guess wording as intended.
Yeah. Hollis? Any arguments against against below average?
No arguments against. So put this in below average.
All right.
And then do a high five afterward.
All right, so we have our first drop, pushing the envelope.
Fantastic.
Oh boy.
All right. You
All right.
keep going?
Yeah, next one.
All right. Clan Vengeance. So this is a resource clan keyword. Install 3, influence 4. They love that influence 4. Whenever you suffer any amount of damage, place 1 power counter on Clan Vengeance. Trash ability. Trash 1 card from HQ at random for each power counter on Clan Vengeance. So what's really neat about this card is it's any type of damage. So that's pretty cool. I like this card depending on the type of corp decks that become popular. This card is definitely something to be worrisome if you're a PE player and you keep pinging them for 1 damage here, 1 damage here. They're just loading up tokens on the Clan Vengeance ready to wipe your whole HQ out. So it's a very interesting card.
Yeah, I'm liking this card too, and I think it's probably well, I'm gonna say I think it's well costed on influence. Looking at 4 influence there, you keep it in Anarch, but if this was lower, I think you would have seen this more all over the place. It's going to be a really good way to deal with some of the influx of net that we're seeing, and Brain. We're being told that Brain is supposed to be a little more popular coming. I mean, obviously, it's not going to help if somebody one shot booms you, or you get caught in some scorched earth combo, right? No amount of power counters on there after you're dead is going to do anything. But the ability to have a resource in play for the game that just is going to stack an HQ threat up, I think it's wonderful. Like, you could potentially wipe someone's whole hand for this.
Yeah. It seems like you're seeing with some of the other spoilers and stuff like that have come out, some things that can definitely punish some damage decks. Again, not really going to do anything if it's like a giant lump sum, like boom, but the type that does sit there and ping you little by little. I mean, this isn't even bad then if you consider like Potential Unleashed. is something else to also help you play against that matchup. It keeps wanting to ping you for little bits of damage, and you just keep building these counters up on Clan Vengeance, just waiting.
Yeah, I agree. Hollis, anything here?
I just don't know how like if your opponent is not going to be running like any heavy amounts of like net or meat damage, that basically is like the 1,000 cuts style. I just don't see how you do enough feasible damage to yourself in ways that aren't basically like what stim hack, which isn't really played anymore because that's a form of damage. And Skulljack, I guess. That's someone mentioned this, in chat, but Skulljack.
Yeah, Mad Dash.
Mad Dash. Yeah, I just don't see a way without running, very specific cards like that. I don't see how you, this card is ever reliable because it's very, it's directly dependent on exactly what the heck your opponent's corporation is doing. And if they're doing no damage, and you don't have a way to directly damage yourself, this card isn't really doing much.
I think a lot of it also depends on how much a resurgence or big usage in techie. But I mean, if you've got things like Potential Unleash, it's going to try to ping you for damage, PE that'll do it, and then with cards like Shock, Bioethics, Breach Dome is going to be coming out, and then even Prisec is something that can trigger and fire off of this.
Guys, are we forgetting the big one?
Snare?
Like when Builder of Nations takes off in like a couple weeks or so.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Well, I can tell you where that card sits.
But then it's like, if there's some things you do to yourself too, like, what is it, in Net Ready Eyes. Could be something like you drop it, deal damage to yourself, build up, counter. I mean, you could play with a lot more of these cards just to try to sit there and synergize stuff up on Clan Vengeance.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's a lot of things you could use to trigger, and so it's not bad. I'm not saying. I mean, it's not a bad like one of two of in Anarch, because you can build some situations where it can give them an interesting way to pressure HQ without having to actually run there.
Yeah, I think we're looking at an above average card here, mostly mixed in because of the threat. Of what the power counters can build up, and I do like the versatility that we're talking about. Suffer any amount of damage, right? So you're covering all three bases, right? Net, meat, brain, but it's also dealing with self-inflicted. So I think that's kind of cool as well. So to me, a card like this is sitting in above average slot.
Yeah, I mean, I really like it, and I think I also am kind of terrified of it being a PE player.
Yeah.
So I want to rate it a little higher, just because I would hate to see it across the table if I'm going to sit there and try to ping you for a bunch of damage. This seems kind of like, oh, this kind of sucks. So I'll put it in above average for me as well. Go ahead, Hollis.
Okay.
Shit all over it.
Yeah, I think. Well, it's because again, I think the point I made earlier, I think, was like, to me the part that kills it for me is that, like, it is very. I think it's difficult enough to trigger on my own as the runner. Like there's cards like like Aaron Moron who, you can't really predict how you're going to score agendas, but it's the nature of the game. So that just by playing the game the way you kind of mean to play the game, you're going to get these counters. And even if your opponent doesn't tag, there's an alternative benefit where you get to draw that card instead, and it's a free. You get basically to use the counters just to draw, even if you don't have to remove those tags. But I feel like with this card, like, if I am not putting in a considerable effort into cards that deal damage to me in my deck. So if I'm not using Net Ready Eyes, if I'm not using a card like Stim Hack and Skulljack and so on and so forth, it's too narrow for me to say, oh, this is a good card to include in the off chance my opponent's doing heavy net or, I guess 1,000 cuts net or me damage. Because Anarch already has like a card like, oh goodness gracious, I've had worse, right? Where they can survive through damage like that. They don't have to depend on this kind of card, which not only doesn't help their survivability, but it's still greatly dependent on what your opponent's doing, like the entire deck of your opponent. So for me, this card gets rated really low. Like probably at least. I think this card is bad, actually.
Yeah, but
I actually think this card is bad.
but take into account. Do you know when people were playing the shard to break up combos?
Yeah.
Right. This is also a combo breaker upper because it's a paid ability.
Yeah, but how are you gonna like? I guess so. I'll say this: if you successfully build a deck that utilizes stem hacks, skulljacks, net ready eyes, and all of that, I think, and maybe Mad Dash, because someone mentioned Mad Dash in chat, but Mad Dash only does the damage to you if the run's gonna be unsuccessful, or rather, you don't score an agenda. So it's basically if you play out of 4 what I think are feasible cards possible. If you play 2 bad ones and 2 situational ones, then the card is good.
But
that's like not a good like.
Yeah, but I'm saying defensively too, right? Like I'm not like I think a lot of people will look at this card as an offensive ability. Like I'm going to take damage. I'm going to take damage. I'm going to soak it up, and then I'm going to wipe their hand, run archives, get some points, and scoop that stuff. But like I said, like a lot of people played with the shard, and the shard was a lot more expensive and situational to use than what this is doing. So this is combo busting, right? Like you can't put this down and double scorch earth me. You can't put this down and do some like traffic accident, scorchers.
But yeah, they can though, because like in order for this to prevent it, you would have had to have taken some form of like I said, if you are proactively doing damage to yourself while playing other cards, then it's good. If your opponent is playing like a deck that does 1,000 cuts, then it's good. But if your opponent's playing a deck that is the big wombo combo like of damage, if you haven't already done the damage to yourself with the limited cards that you can use that are conditional that conditionally do damage to you, like this card may do nothing. And that's another thing. Is it Eden Shard, or I think it's Eden.
Yeah.
That discards too. So even with Eden Shard, like the best thing about Eden Shard is that you don't have to pay the 7. I think it's you make a run on HQ, and that's how you install Eden Shard.
Right. Instead of accessing, you just install the shard.
Right. And what's funny about Eden Shard is it means that they have to kind of, even if it's already in play, they kind of have to already know, okay, crap, I can't do the combo the way I expect to do the combo. So I have to go around it. I have to tag you first, say reaction, and then you go, well, I'll trash 2. Otherwise, I'll trash that Eden Shard. So like Eden Shard's even doing something, even if you like play it before you're ready, or you pay 7, regardless of how you play the card. Eden Shard is going to be a threat that's always there, and it's not as conditional.
I think the way I see it is more almost kind of like the slums gets played against asset spam. This could be something depends on the type of damage decks to develop as the meta moves on. Like with things like Scorpios, with things like, PE, Potential Unleashed. Hell, even like RP that starts playing the Kagios or the Kuos or whatever and stuff like that. There can be a lot of things in the game that can just be designed just to ping you for damage. And so if you get this online early game, then you're just like, okay, well, that's cool, I guess. I'll sit there and let this build up to where I can wipe your hand.
Right.
And go from there.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to say build a deck to deal a bunch of damage to yourself to fire off the Clan Vengeance. But I think it can be an interesting way to, if you're worried about that type of matchup, or if you want to try to slow a deck from just continuously pinging you little by little, it's a way to stall it out and do it, because they could load up 5 and you're like, cool, sack it, discard your hand, let's go see what I get.
Yeah.
Especially as you move into, as rotation and stuff goes, this card is only going to get better, because some of the abilities to get crap out of your hand is going to be harder.
Yeah, I agree that it's got good future potential too. But so looking at it right now, then Hollis, and Corey, where do you think, taking all that into account?
I wouldn't drop it below an average, even with like that argument going in, because I think there are some deck matchups where it can be incredibly strong, at least cause the core player to pause to consider what they're doing. And I know right now, like, there's a lot of things that can be coming out that can affect some of the decks that are in the meta and stuff right now, but there's a lot of damage cards coming in route that you're going to start seeing the stuff start building up.
Yeah. Well, there's also, just noting my concern again for the card. Like, I think it's also a matter of, so the ability is a trash ability. When I think about all the resources I could be playing, like DDoS, like, because DDoS is very good, right? Like, when I think about resources I could be playing at 3, this one is very weird because the number one, the question is, I want to have?
You're an Anarch player. You have a really hard time finding good resources to play. Yeah.
It's like okay, this costs 3. So number one, I'm comparing it to other resources that also cost 3. Then this card does something on its own that is different. But the ability is a trash ability, and it does 1 card from HQ at random for every power counter. So now I'm asking myself, all right, what's the threshold? Is it 3? So that means I have to successfully take 3 damage. All right, so I'm versus a Jinteki opponent. If this card comes out early, I could quite literally take that 3 damage in the first couple of turns. But if I'm holding this card, and let's say I just let it build and build up to where there's 5 or 6, whatever the number is, it's irrelevant really, because I mean you're only ever really going to need 5, right, at max. So
and it also depends on your timing because of it being a trash effect. Like you can wait until the corp plays cards,
right?
Like their turn starts, cool. They'll play an operation. All right, sweet. They'll play something else, and you're like, okay, cool. So click 2, and you have 3 cards left in your hand. Then just clear the rest of your hand out. You know, what's your last click going to be?
But I guess I look at that scenario, and in my head I'm going, okay, so let's say I'm playing against that Jinteki deck that I think this card's really good against. Have I slotted 2 of these? Because I don't know. I don't think I like. That's sort of the weird thing. It's like, do I actually slot 2 of these cards in my deck as opposed to other cards for a potential matchup that I can't? You know what I mean? I guess I'm saying I agree with you. If the meta had shifts to where there's a lot of 1,000 cuts kind of decks, and like Jinteki has that resurgence that way, where that's a very common archetype. Sure, a card like this seems like it can be powerful. In the present meta, I don't know. I feel like if I want to not die from Jinteki, there's other options that are probably at least as good as this that prevent me from dying, that aren't about taking away your options, and I can still win without this particular card. Basically, I feel like this card fills a role that is probably filled better by something else. And the only unique thing about this card is that it's doing it differently. Like, that's pretty much... Mm-hmm. It's sort of like if they do the Ronin, what is that? Something ceremony, dedication ceremony. Yeah. It's like, well, Res Ronin, and I'm like, no, we're gonna use this now. I don't have time for that. You know, and but even then, it's like, is that really worth the inclusion of this? It's weird. I'll say this: at worst, this card's, and I'm being generous, I think. At worst, I feel like the card is bad, and at best, I think the card's actually below average. At best, I think the card's below average. But that's me. I know I hate every card. I hate 80% of Netrunner cards in the game. Oh man.
All right, Corey. So where do we put this?
So I'm still in the above average camp. So you can drop it wherever you think with the it'll fall.
Do you want to split hairs and then just put it into average?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
All right.
And then we'll see what happens as the cycle develops.
So where do we see it slotting into average here? Better than Mad Dash?
No. It's definitely not better than Mad Dash.
Better than Exploit?
Probably not.
So I guess right at the bottom then?
Yeah, that's probably the safest place to put it. That's probably the compromise with Hollis's below average and everything like that.
All right, shoot the next one.
Okay, counter surveillance. Another clan resource. Install 1, influence 3. Click trash, make a run. If successful, instead of accessing, pay X credits to access up to X cards from the server, if able. X is the number of tags you have.
What?
So it's another one of those, like, so in the ideal, like, tag me, I can sit here and float a crap load of tags. I can use this card to access, like, the majority of R&D. If for some reason there's everything in your hand. It's just a multi-access that synergizes off tag me.
Yeah, to me, this is going to be obviously dependent on the deck that you're going to build. If you're going to be taking tags, we know that tags are a thing still right now, with NBN being still played as much as they are in competitive play. I think that this is. I just think this is an average card because it's you have to make that choice to either build around it or
Tag me decks still seem
not.
like even more dangerous and stuff to play with right now because there's so many things that punish you for being tagged.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know how many situations. I mean, then again, I haven't played a DLR deck in a while. So it's been a while since you sit there and just float a crap load of tags. And you're just like, oh, I have another tag, I have another tag, I have another tag. I'm building them up. I mean, I guess if you play a deck that can survive going all in, you can load up and use this to finish the game. But I feel like a lot of those decks are probably DLR, and they're just trying to mill you out anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But it could be a way for them to get the rest of R&D if for some reason they get stalled out.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
Hollis.
Yeah, no, I don't really have a. I do think tag me decks are sort of difficult right now. Sort of difficult, just because the way having cards like Boom that exist and having cards like exchange of information make floating a ton of tags very, very difficult still. And I do think that this fits very comfortably in those DLR decks, right? Where they're running like paparazzi, so they don't take the damage, and their whole game plan is just I'm going to mill the corp out as as best I can. Because what this card does is it adds this other unique set of pressure where, granted, those decks tend to just take all the money they can and just float tag after tag after tag. I think what this card lets you do is, instead of letting everything get closed accounts, which is a thing that happens, right?
Yeah.
I think these cards sort of allow you to just like run HQ, run R&D, and just say, look, I got six tags, bro. So I'll tell you what, I'm just gonna run your R&D. I'm in, and we're just gonna pay 6. I look at 6 cards, and now I hit our archives to hit the cards that I've trashed. I feel like it helps close that gap where, for example, I think when you're playing a DLR deck, all right, you're asking yourself, like, all right, I've milled 12, 15, 25 cards, and I'm pretty sure I might have the win, but maybe I'll only get 5.
It's a good surprise, right?
Right, like having a card like this is interesting because it helps kind of close that gap where if you could just mill, and just try to hit him at 0, get him to 0 cards left in the deck, but this adds a unique perspective, a unique option to say, all right, I milled 15, so I counted up. Wow, you only had 5 in your archives. That's a little low, but it's all right. We're going to use this card here, and now I'm going to pay my 8, my 6, my 4. And we'll look at the top 4. Surely the last point or two are going to be in that top 4 or top 6.
Yeah.
And I think that's fine.
Another trade-off on this is when DLR eventually rotates.
Yeah.
This will be a tag me card that will require you to still interact with the core player.
Yeah.
You still have to make a run. You still have to have money to be able to pay up to access the cards. So it's an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, one-time use, right? Click in a trash.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So you could essentially, you could play it and then, click and run. Like, I don't know if people are going to keep this on the board.
Yeah, I think you'll pretty much want to play it when you want to fire it.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, if you synergize also with other multi-access, you can get some pretty big digs out of it. If you already have like a medium that's building up and stuff like that, you just add to it, right?
Yeah. So initial feelings?
I mean, me, first blush, and wants to put it probably average. I mean, I don't think it's a bad card. I don't think it's like an, oh my god, this card's going to be everywhere. But I think if you build a deck around it, it's not a bad card to play with. If you can make it work.
Yeah, I think that's where my feelings are. I don't think this is bad at all, but I don't think this is, oh my god, game changing.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's, right now, at least in my opinion, it feels there's enough balances to keep this card from being, like, insane.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also the fact, too, like, you have to have money. You have to, be able to install and click, so it's almost like a double, effectively. So yeah, not bad.
Oh yeah, it's a clan card.
It is a clan card, whatever that means.
Yeah.
It's this walks around your neighborhood
Yeah.
preaching oppression.
Hollis, you got feelings on initial placement here?
I think it feels very niche. Like I like it outside of DLR, right? I don't know where this goes. Like knowing what's available now, I don't know where this card sits outside of DLR. So to me, it's it's another one of those where to me it's at least below average. At least, but that's again, I hate every card. That isn't Cipher. I hate every card.
Yeah, and everyone else hates Cipher.
Yeah.
Yep, pretty much. Yeah.
It's the card that doesn't mean anything. Rules don't matter.
Nope.
Well, yeah, because so I mean, average, below average, like thoughts on where? Like, do we go down do we go up the list? Do you want to say, is it better than pushing the envelope? Is it better than stim implants? Is it better than Ma?
I
Where
think
would you put it?
I would put it. I would put it below Ma, above Severnius. I think.
Corey? Agree or disagree there?
You would put it below Severnius?
No, he
I
said
would put it below Ma.
below Ma.
And above Severn? Sure. We'll go with that. I mean, we're able to move it once stuff. So.
I think that's where it goes.
All right, you guys want to cue the next?
Sure. I'll keep going. Oh, sorry. This is the one that's got the... What is that? Mobius? Anyway, whatever. Event run costs 0, influence 1. Make a run on R&D. If successful, you may make another run on R&D when this run ends. If the second run is successful, gain 4 credits. 1 influence, because why not?
This card is great. This card is, and I'm not backing down from that.
Yeah. I mean, and it's a criminal card, because,
It is.
You got to make Anarch pay something for it. So that's cool. So yeah, if you like running R&D, let's say you have a way to either make a bunch of credits or build up multi-access, and you just want to be able to get 2 runs for the price of 1, and then, hey, let's say you finish that second run, and you just happen to be strapped for a little bit of cash, and you just want to get a little bit of refund on this. Does that sound like something you might be interested in? How about if you weren't a criminal player, would you like to only pay 1 influence to be able to do that? Plus, it's 0 cost. So that's cool, right? Yeah.
That is cool. That's very cool.
Yeah.
And where is what other money gaining cards is this going to synergize from within the criminal faction, right?
I don't know. There might be like a contract.
Yeah.
It's pretty popular.
There might be a console also.
Yeah, maybe, or like some testing that might be going on. Keep things secure.
Yeah, there might be a testing. There might be a testing card.
Yeah, there's so many crazy things that can synergize off this card.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really good. I mean, yeah.
Hollis, you
Really
got any any tricks up your sleeve to talk us out of its placement?
I have one, and that is it. I think the only one negative, of course, is that I think that if you are running if you're running in a criminal deck or really any deck, and you have a card like at least a card like medium, security testing, or Temujin, like if any of those cards are out, this, and even Desperado, this card clearly has a potential benefit where you can gain a lot of money for doing what you would normally do. Scenarios where those cards aren't in, obviously, where you can't combo, there's really not. I can't even think of a great reason to run this card. Like, it effectively is a combo card, if we're going to be honest, right? Like, This is 100% a combo card. It's designed to be used with security testing and medium and Temujin, so you can say, I security testing R&D.
What if you get that sweet indexing and you're like, oh, 2 agendas. I'm gonna move this right back.
Yeah.
Stack.
I think potentially you're going to see it more out of faction than you will in faction.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was moved into criminal and like, okay, so it's R&D pressure, and criminal doesn't really synergize with R&D. They're more of an HQ faction. So I think this is a straight where they liked this card and moved it over to blue just to balance it out, just to make you, hey, we're not giving this away for free, so you're gonna have to pay 1 for it. Because if it was green, it'd be crazy. I mean, you're gaining 4, so that's already like sure gamble money, for free, right? I don't need the initial investment. I just have to get in.
And what if you get like the corp that gets kind of the meh opening hand, and they can only ice 1? If you're doing this in criminal, odds are they're icing HQ.
Yep.
So then you can load up and use this to make a bunch of money off R&D.
Yeah.
There's lots of really neat neat abilities to play it. But the thing is, this card has a lot of flexibility and what can be good plays for it.
I just like to mention data breach.
Oh.
Just to appease the chat. They thought we'd go the whole show without mentioning data breach, and it's done.
What's data breach? What is that?
Make a run on R&D. If successful, you can make another run on R&D.
Yeah, this is way better.
Yeah.
This is just like way better. This is like so much better. Man, I honestly just think this card is good. I don't mean just, sorry, that came out wrong. I don't really have the negative things I have to say. I don't think are that huge comparatively. Like, I think the card, the positives of this card vastly outweigh the negative aspects, because it is a combo card. But so what?
So
like,
what?
It's like, so what? It's actually in the faction that runs probably 7 to 9 cards dedicated to benefit from this card. When you include Temujin, Desperado, and security testing. And I mean, that's also that doesn't include any of the cards that they may spice up to use with successful runs, like, I don't know, John Masanori, if you want to run John Masanori. Like, it's just silly to me that the synergy's there. Like, in faction, the synergy's there to make this card fantastic. So I like it a lot.
Yeah. I think that once the pressure gets up and rolling in criminal, it's there. It's there to stay. They're really going to drop punishment.
Yeah. It costs 0. Wow.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah. So hey, Hollis, where would you drop this card?
It's good. It's good. I think it's good.
Corey?
I would put it in great.
Woo!
I was great from the beginning. I'm not letting Hollis rain on my parade today. So
Big negative Nancy Hollis over here.
Yeah. All right, Los.
We can move it later.
Yeah. Talk about Los, Mr. Hollis.
Woo, Los, data hijacker. He's an identity for criminal. He's a Gmod, link 0, deck size 45, 15 influence. The ability on Los is the first time the corp res is a piece of ice each turn, gain 2 credits. Also, art designed by my boy Matt Zeilinger.
He's on a roll still. Guy's still on fire, never cooled down.
Nope. Never.
Yeah. How does this guy get around with all that shit hanging from his arms? Like, if he ever has to turn around really quick, like, everyone around him better duck.
I think it goes from his arms, but like into his shoulders there. Like, it loops around some kind of weird, like, I don't know. It reminds me of like something from like Captain EO, if you guys are that old or been to Epcot and seen Jackson in 3D. That aside, Hollis, any thoughts on this new criminal, on this spicy criminal card?
Spicy, huh? I think Los is. Uh, Man, this is hard. I think about the IDs that are rotating, and I think I like Los. I It feels like his ability is very vanilla, and in general in Netrunner, it's kind of interesting. In Netrunner, the abilities, is kind of what makes them great, right? Because the corp will pretty much always res ice, and if that's the case, Los will pretty much always gain two. And we already know that we've got cards coming down the pipeline that that allow you to derez ice that the corp already has, meaning that you're increasing the likelihood of him gaining 2 credits throughout the game. We already have existing cards like emergency. Oh my goodness, what is it called?
Shutdown.
No, it's the one that forces him to res. I can't even remember.
Forge activation orders.
Forge activation orders. There we go. We're like
Dude,
basically
classic.
yeah,
Netrunner.
classic Netrunner. I mean, like
That's
to me,
back
it's
when
like
ice is used.
yeah, right. Yeah, we're basically even if the corp is like, yeah, I'll reserve my credits, I got this restructure I want to play, or whatever the case is, where they decide they're not going to res ice, you kind of put them in a situation where you say res it or trash it right now. And I mean, I like Los because I feel like it's going to be this unique amount of pressure. He's not very aggro, like he's not super. He doesn't give you that huge boost like Andromeda would in the beginning of the game, or that landslidey change that can occur when Leela does what Leela does. But I think a fairly consistent like credit gain throughout a match of Netrunner is actually not bad. The only bad thing about it is that it's the first time. So I think the corp will often rationalize, let me just res everything right now before it gets too late.
But then that's still kind of like a form of credit denial. If you're playing with a lot of D-res, they're
That's
giving
true.
you more targets.
That's true.
So he seems very interesting. It definitely depends on like how much more support comes out with that play style.
Yeah.
But the fact is too, this is also dependent on the amount of ice that like develops on the corp side.
It
But
depends
he
on
gives
the
you more-
state that Glacier goes in.
Yeah, but he gives you more flexibility because even like Gabe was 2 credits, but you had to run HQ. Well, Los can run anywhere there's ice, or even just do cards of trigger off ice to get it to maybe potentially res or put the corp in situations. It's pretty. He seems pretty cool.
Yeah, I think Hollis, you started out by saying exactly what needs to be said about Lowe's. Sometimes these Netrunner identities that are pretty vanilla are pretty much the best. Like they turn out to be the best ones, just because there's, they kind of just reward you for just playing the game, right? Like,
Yeah.
Eventually the corp's gonna have to res ice, right? And you just kind of do your thing and gain off that, right? Just like, Gabe, eventually, you're gonna run HQ. Kate, eventually you're gonna have to install stuff, right? Like, you're just gaining for playing the game. You don't have to do anything really in particular to build a Los deck,
Right.
for that ability to trigger, because it's going to. So I think he has potential. I think he already has support cards available to him, but I think it's going to be nice to see more come, to see how strong he eventually becomes in Criminal. And I think it's nice to have another Criminal ID out there that falls in line with old school Criminal, right? About just, gaining that money. Like, and, there's no way that this ability can be pulled out of faction. So, I mean,
Right.
at least Criminal can, at least Criminal
keep
has that
that.
going for them. But yeah, right now, to me, I think I'd like to see more about where Los can go and about the state of what would come. I got to say that he's probably at the top of average for me right now. Like, realistically, you can, if you want to compare to what Gabe is doing, and it's not just cards that would create res and derez of ice. I think you saw people move away from criminal just because their rest of their support suite wasn't up to what other factions were doing. So we need to see more from criminal in general. We need to see an insurgence of breakers. The birds didn't quite hit the spot for a lot of people. So they just need more other than this money style.
What I really am so interested to see, as we know, granted, I know there's a lot of packs between now and rotation, or at least a fair number of packs, and maybe even criminal identities that come out. But when I look at like the current like landscape of existing criminal IDs, like the ones that that will remain after rotation, because we're pretty much losing Andy. But what remains are like IDs that are either popular or they have at least enough cards to support them that are interesting, like Armand Geist, right? Or Lila Patel, or and there's one more was Kin Tinma. Kin Tinma to me is the really interesting one, I think, to me, because if you look at the card we just talked about, which is Mobius or Mobius, that card is a run event. Now Los is whenever the first time each turn that the corp rests a piece of ice, it's gain 2. Which I think, is a vanilla ability that's good, whereas Kintinma is the first time you play a run event each turn, gain 1. Now, I guess the question is that 2 you gain going to always be more beneficial than utilizing run event cards, things like Dirty Laundry, things like Mobius, things like Maker's Eye and Legwork? I think so. I do think that it's possible or likely that Los wins out more often, but Ken has something that Los doesn't, which is 2 more influence. And so I'm wondering if people are going to, when between those 2 decks, are people going to look at that and go, I don't know if the 2 influence is worth the credits I'm gaining or losing, considering that I gain a credit for these run events I'm playing anyway. It's just interesting to me. I want to see it. I want to see if people play different stuff.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that being said, Hollis, where do you want to mark it?
I put him at. I'm going to put him above average. I'm optimistic, actually.
Whoa, hold on.
I think
is there
above
something he's optimistic about something?
I am. I'm optimistic about. I mean, I could be way wrong, but I'm optimistic about Los. Looking at the remaining runners, I think it's going to come down to Lila, Kin, and Los, and they all have very Lila's very powerful. But I don't know. I do like Los.
Cool. Me with some reservations until I see more stuff coming out. I want to drop him in the average category. I think it's cool. It seems really fun, but I think average is probably the safe place to drop him until we start to see some decks come out with them.
Hollis, what did you say?
I think he's above average.
See, I guess my initial thoughts is very, very high in the average.
All right.
Well, so what do you guys think, Hollis? Are you willing to bend a bit? I mean, usually you're the pull down kind of guy.
I can bend.
But this time we're pulling you down.
Yeah, I can make him average. But he'd probably be pretty high on the average list.
Yeah, I'll put him at the top.
Actually, well, I think he's below Jameson though.
Well, we were on the runner side.
Oh, duh.
Yeah, he's not going to be there.
Sorry, yeah.
Turns out.
Then I put him above. Yeah. Top is fine. I was like, wait, what?
All right, you guys want to hit the next one up there?
Go ahead,
Sorry,
Corey.
I just like the comment in chat. It was like, nobody's going to pay 6 for Lycan if it also gives the runner 2 credits. Los anti-Lycan counter confirmed.
Why Lycan? Why?
Yeah. It's your favorite ice coming back to talk to you.
All right, yeah, hit the next one.
All right, next we have System Seizure. So this is a Shaper event current. Man, they haven't had one of those
A shaper
in a
current?
long
Holy
time.
Toledo! What are we doing here?
0 cost, 1 influence, because, I mean, why would anyone else need to pay influence for cards? And, this card is not trash until another current is played. Yeah, you know current rules. The first icebreaker whose strength you increase each turn does not return to its base strength until the end of the run.
Huh.
So, better than Net Celebrity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think that the cost, the influence, and this ability is just good.
So what?
It's taking those cool features from cards that kind of didn't really storm the game, like Snowball, where it keeps its strength boosted all the way through, but this just lets this also forces the corp to play a little bit of a different game and know what ice is going where. So you're creating a little bit of tension on that side, and awareness, but I mean, think of the money you're going to save too.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. It seems cool. I mean, definitely think about like your breaker suite whenever you're deciding to play with this card. And again, if you want a good in-faction breaker, you don't want to spend influence on like the staple neutral break or neutral currents. It's a nice option for in-faction and shaper that they now have one, because they haven't really up until this point. They're either taking a neutral, or that's usually it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest thing is thinking about like what breaker suite you would play with to really take advantage of this card. Now, granted, it can be really cool with AIs. So if you want to play with a bunch of those, like this is a cool current to think about it, because the AI can usually get through everything. So you pump it once, and then you can just power through the rest of the server.
Placement thoughts?
I am I think my initial excitement for Shaper getting a decent current makes me want to place this a little higher. So I'm kind of in the high above average, low good camp. Probably leaning more towards the above average, but I don't know. It's kind of tough because, again, I feel like the decks are going to want to play this. I'm not sure exactly what those are right now.
All right, Hollis.
Yeah, the only other thing I think I could add that hasn't been said is that there's a potential here when you use it with stealth breakers.
Yeah, if you get where you need to use the same breaker, if they
Right.
double ice with the same type, it could be pretty neat
Yeah.
with that, because you pump it with the one stealth credit allegedly, and then it
strength.
keeps it.
Yeah.
You know, if you're not playing with the stealth suite, that does it anyway, right?
Yeah. So I mean, and that's the other thing. Like I feel like Shaper also has. Correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't Shaper have both? Or Shaper has all three. Shaper has multiple barriers, a code gate, and I think also a sentry that retains its strength for the entire run. Now, granted, they may not be very good ones on either side, right? But that's something that already exists in the Shaper like pie. That's part of their thing, retaining strength for the whole run. So it just feels like this is primarily, if you're ever going to use this, it would be used on AIs or cards that you bring out of faction that don't maintain their strength, like Gordian Blade, throughout the run. To me, this is I would put this as average. I think.
Really?
Yeah, I think it would be average.
All right, so what do you guys want to do? Split hairs and just put it in above average for now?
Yeah, I would lean it to the above average. I think it's a good place to start.
We can
always look at moving.
average the three of our
I'm okay with this.
average the three of our picks out here.
Yes.
All right. Next.
All right, customized secretary. Program, install 2, memory 1, influence 2. When you install Customized Secretary, reveal the top 5 cards of the stack. You may host any number of revealed programs from your stack on it. Shuffle your stack. For a click action, install a hosted program, paying all install costs. Yep.
I'm gonna pull a Hollis on this, and I'm already dipping down on this card.
Yeah.
So when you install it, you reveal the top 5 cards of your stack. So we're seeing almost a street peddler style effect here. You may host any number of revealed programs from your stack on it, and then shuffle your stack. So it's not discarding your cards, but it is causing potential to maybe be a whiff, right?
Well,
I think if you look at what shaper decks have, and in the past, strong shapers, I mean, and I'm talking about strong shapers, I'm not talking about a professor deck here.
Whoa.
what? Hello?
Hold on.
Yeah.
What's professor? I don't know what that is.
A professor, he's an ID in Netrunner that runs a lot of programs.
Has he been relevant since it came out? I don't know. Is like
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying not including the professor here.
Yeah. Oh, gotcha. Okay. I'm like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
I don't know.
But most of the shapers I've seen aren't running a plethora of programs. You're basically looking at a couple core programs, and then you're leaning on your ability to search and to do recursion. So this kind of card, I'm looking at below average for me. I mean, it's not even when you're hosting something on this card, it's not saving you anything, right?
Yeah.
It's still counting towards your memory.
Yeah.
And then you're just setting up like a single point of failure here too.
That's what it does. A single point of failure.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of this card.
There's better ways to speed through your stuff. I mean, right now self-modifying code is just the way to go.
It is. Like I'm trying to figure out why I use this card over or alongside even a card like self-modifying code or
I don't know. I mean, self-modifying code is creation and control. So I mean, you don't even have to worry about something like that being cycled out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I feel like a little bit of the issue, if this was a free card, it would be pretty neat. But you're paying 2 credits, 1 credit if you're Kate, to install and dig through 5, to then get the programs and then spend clicks to install, still paying for the program.
Yeah.
Using the MU.
But
I mean, I mean, if it was like self-modifying code, where it was the 0 install, then I don't know. Maybe it would be neat. But to me, I don't know, guys. The ability to be able to whiff or to not find, to not find the one that you're looking for, right? Like, what if I'm really like, are you gonna run this and, like Hollis said, are you gonna run this and self-modifying code side by side, right? Like,
no.
I don't think so.
No.
And so wouldn't you rather find the one you want rather than take a roll of the dice and, hey, there's 2 barriers back to back. I need my barrier breaker. Let me just drop this in, pull 5 cards. Oh, here's my century breaker. Well, I'm glad I got it out right now. So I don't know. I think that I don't know. For me, this is a below average count, and I mean I'll throw it to Hollis, and I can definitely be swayed to drop it lower with some good arguments and my boy in my corner.
Do you really want me to do that? I will happily tell you where this card sits immediately. Ready? Terrible.
I knew it. He goes
You're
straight
never.
to terrible.
You are not going to play. You are not going to play this card over self-modifying code ever. I cannot imagine a scenario. Even if you played a professor, right? And you were to I'll get to the combos in a second. Even if you were to play the professor and you were like, all right, I got all these programs, like I gotta hit something. Like the fact remains is that you don't even get a discount on these cards. Like there's no discount for even installing them this way. It's straight up just
you're actually paying to install it.
Yeah, you're actually just paying regularly to install it. So I mean, what am I?
Which pretty much means that when you're searching and if you find the program you're looking for, it's in the top 5. Then you still have to pay full price for the program.
Hey, what if you find all of a sudden 2 or 3 programs that you're looking for?
Well, then they'll just chill it on that card.
Better have that money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you're right broke.
So,
I mean, you just installed all your breakers. You can't run, but you installed them all.
Yeah, like. All right, okay. Let's say you Rolodex, which is a criminal card, 1 influence. When you look at when you install it, you look at the top 5 cards of your deck and arrange them in any order, and then you can trash it to trash the top 3 cards of your deck. But what I don't get is why I am including a card in my deck to ensure that another card works as intended. That isn't good. Like I just don't. I don't. I'm looking at the top 5 cards of my deck and going, okay, look, this program's there. So I guess this click was worth me now paying this 2 credits in a click to not really get a huge benefit.
Yeah,
I don't know.
You're still spending a click to install it.
Corey,
Yeah, I don't know.
It's not even guaranteeing it's the program you want.
Corey, what do you got?
I'm in like the bad camp on this card. I'm in camp bad.
Yeah, I think we're all definitely down in the dumps.
Yeah, maybe terrible. Maybe terrible is really harsh.
So do you think is it worse than Spot the Prey?
That's hard.
I'm gonna go with no.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with no.
This card will at least find you a program, hopefully.
Yeah, Spot the Prey is definitely the lowest tier. Like, I don't think that this card is not as bad as Spot the Prey.
So if Spot the Prey is bad, then we have to say that this card is probably just at the top of bad.
I think so.
Okay.
Let's just to talk it out a little bit, just because we have the time, maybe. Like, someone mentioned, like, what if we played in Noise here? I think I don't want to get his name right. Swarnava Banerjee. He said, hey, what about Noise? Maybe Noise could pull a ton of viruses, and then you install them off of this from playing it, and that might be interesting. But I could also, I know this is gonna be crazy. I could also Wildside.
You could play Jin, right?
Or Jin, yeah, and then just like I promise I'm trying. Like I don't want to I don't want to just assume this card's just not worth playing, but I just can't think of a great reason to play it over existing card options. Because
it's okay, man. It's a flexible list. We
That's
can
true.
move these cards as things are discovered. New information comes in.
True.
Someone finds a way to just blow this card out.
Basically, let me summarize. I feel like across the board in every faction, if you're going to play an icebreaker, you don't have heavy amounts of protection, way to like recur it, then you're going to run cards like Paperclip, Mark Ultra, and Black Orchestra, because those cards come out of your discard pile from your heap into the game without you having to recur them. Which means that now the concern is, how do I find those cards faster? The programs that I really care about, the breakers. So Criminal has Special Order, Chipper has Clone Chip and Self-Modifying Code, as well as Test Run, and Anarch doesn't really have anything, but in Anarch they either use Faust or they've got like the Wild Side they have Wild Cakes combo to draw 1 million cards every turn. So like all those And also Shaper has a ton of draw also. So it's like across the board, there's a fair amount of draw power. There's ways to search for your breakers. So now I guess really the only limiting factor are programs that aren't icebreakers that you need to find. And if we're going to be totally honest, breakers or programs that are not icebreakers are notoriously bad unless they're medium, data sucker, or parasite. If we're going to be really, really honest, it's very uncommon that a lot of programs get played in decks that aren't those. And usually when they do get played, they're meta options. Like they're the Parisia. They're the they're very specific. They're very specific behind a deck archetype. They're not just I just arbitrarily play all these random programs. So I find it very difficult knowing that to fit this card in when I think its primary target are non-icebreaker programs. Am I running enough of those to justify this card inclusion if I already have the other cards to search for the icebreakers that are effectively tutors? That's a hard sell to me. Maybe someone can convince me otherwise, but until then, the card is bad. Sorry for my rant.
Slotted.
I accept it.
All right, looking at the next one. So, Deuce is Wild. Where do you guys think this...
God.
Yeah. Wait a second. Did they leave some of the text off?
Yeah.
I think that's only only part of the ability. It's the same amount of influence. It's weird.
I know it's still early in the year, but build script, Deuce is Wild, Facebook Netrunner Dorks rant is the post of the year.
No.
I don't know if anyone has gone through that and read Dan's chat about
it was emotional, bro. It
about build
was an emotional
script.
event.
Yeah. I mean, I feel for him.
Yeah.
But
Whew.
hella good.
Yeah. Hopefully they're not already making his next card.
No, that'd be horrible.
Anyway. Yeah, so build script. I'll read it. Event, cost 0, influence 1. Neutral, gain 1 credit and draw 2 cards.
All right, we're done. We're gonna mark it in.
Yeah.
Wow.
To me, this card is not going to be something that makes or breaks a deck. I think it's just, to me, at this moment, it's just pretty average.
If even that.
Yeah, it's bottom of average. I mean, it's got value because it's obviously it's not costing you anything.
Are you going to spend an influence for this?
I don't know. I'm only just I'm just throwing the dart at the dartboard right now to start the discussion, right? I'm just saying that right now it just looks to me very vanilla.
I mean, you have to think about it too, right? Because if you didn't put influence on this card, like, would it be an auto include? Would it be a card that you would play with all the time?
Probably.
I don't know. I mean, I know that they've already kind of shown, or I feel like I don't know. Is it always great to gain a click, draw 2 cards?
I don't even. You know what? I don't even know. I don't.
Or gain a credit, draw 2 cards. Yeah.
I mean, you think that?
I mean, yeah. So if it was free and you were just looking for a way just to kind of funnel through cards, and you just want another like accelerator.
Yeah.
Maybe, sure. If you're not playing Shaper and you don't play Diesels.
I mean, that's where I was going to say. I mean, it's getting the value that Diesel has, but just breaking it up, right? Like Diesel being an event that costs 0, draw 3 cards. This is still 0, but this is giving you two and a credit.
I mean, really, it's just replacing itself. So you're getting through your deck a smidge faster. You're getting 1 card. You're getting a replacement and an extra card, and then making $1. I don't know. I'm very meh on this card.
Yeah.
So then, where are you guys thinking? So obviously, when I say the starting point is the bottom of the average, sounds like you guys want to make this, slide a little further.
And I would probably lean towards below average on this card.
And I'm cool with that.
I don't think it's a bad card.
Yeah.
I mean, if you had one, right, you'd play it.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's not
and
like
basically,
you're not.
basically where we're going with is because you made this neutral and added an influence to it is what's hurting the hump here.
Yeah, the input. It's really interesting, I guess, the thought process, because I guess they probably considered if you didn't put an influence on it, you might borderline this card to being something that's like, oh, it's going in 5 spots, it's going in the deck.
Yeah.
And maybe that was the worry or the fear, so they had to pip it. But then again, the problem it runs into is you run along Deuces Wild, which is, has more options, but you do have to pay money for it. This is a free card.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I got for it.
Yeah, no, I'm with both of you. I feel like, meh. I want to give a quick shout out here in the chat. Paul Avers basically read my damn mind the moment you started talking about it, Corey. I was thinking about Deuces Wild, and I was going, Deuces Wild is everything this card wants to be, right? And like, it just gives you options. Like usually, it's not that big of a stretch to have 2 credits to have a card that gives you the option that Deuces Wild has. It's pretty nice, right? As a 1 influence card. So the question is, why would this card exist in the current form instead of being in a mini faction?
Yeah.
This card is beautiful. So, I mean, people keep talking about it in the chat. This card is beautiful in Apex, where that faction needs some help. That mini faction needs a little help. And this card is not super powerful. So in a mini faction, there's it definitely boosts it by saying, hey, here's a card that normally costs 1 influence. It's sort of a mini Deuces Wild, and you get it for free. Congrats.
Yeah.
This is your power boosted card. And
Yeah,
I
that
think
would have been
fun.
a way better way to use this card than just to make it a neutral that now the mini factions have another thing that they would have to pay for.
Right.
Because even though they get so much influence, it uses up fast.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they burn through the influence pretty quick.
Yep.
And just to give them just a couple other tools to help them out, you might start seeing some of those mini factions do stuff, start showing up a bit more. Jameson will be so sad when he brings Adam.
I ain't never sad.
Yeah.
I know what I'm going home with.
Yeah.
So you guys want to say this is it's below average then? Is that where we're targeting?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So looking at the list here, is it high, low? Is it better?
Can I be honest?
Yeah.
I want to put it on the low end of below average, just on principle. Just as a shout out to Dan, who basically had his card like it's like put it on the lowest part of below average as we can. Like that does kind of suck. And I do feel like this card should have been a mini faction card. I honestly don't even care which one. Whatever mini faction this card would have gone into, it would have improved that mini faction. Should have been in there to begin with.
Yeah. All right, so that concludes the runner side of things. Guys, you want to look at the list and see if we have any movements to do here? Is there stuff that we want to actually slide around now or bump up, bump down?
I want to move Spot the Prey down to terrible.
I can support that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Spot the Prey has earned terrible for sure. I feel like Customized Secretary is clearly bad. And so if Spot the Prey is worse, it's like, all right, then you're just like way down.
Yep. We've been getting a lot of feedback about biomodeled being placed too high.
Uh-huh. So maybe we move that. I mean, I can see that being moved down. I can see that being moved down a little bit. Because you know how much I dislike the card to begin with. But I can see it getting moved down. Do you know what card I kind of want to see moved up, though, after thinking about it more?
What?
I hate to say this. I think people will disagree. I think Mad Dash goes up.
Oh, I ain't going to disagree. You're the one that talked it down.
Well, let me just say, I've done some thinking, and I feel like in the faction that this card's going to be played in, which is either medium dig or like indexing, I think this card, you're only going to ever play this card when you're going to score an agenda, right?
Yeah.
So it's basically always a free point if you look at it. Like there's an agenda there. I use it. Got it. I think Mad Dash deserves to be above average. I could be wrong.
But not better than System Seizure then, right? Someone's typing up a storm.
I know, it's me. I apologize.
I actually think Mad Dash might be. I don't know.
Corey?
So I am on board with Mad Dash going
A tier up?
a tier up and then bio-modeled, probably dropping down to average.
Dropping
I will
all-
drop it. Yeah, I
Dropping-
will drop it. I don't want to take it below that.
You want to go bio
wow,
modeled? You want to go down 2 tiers for bio?
Yeah.
Whoa, Corey! Whoa! What a shift! What a twist! What a twist! I did not expect you to want to do that. Wow.
So Mad Dash, are we is like bottom of above average?
Yeah, that's fine. Because it just made it. I mean, it's a better card than Clan Vengeance. If we put Clan Vengeance in above average, I would say Mad Dash is better than that.
Okay.
I mean, I would play it over
Clan Vengeance is average.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. Then yeah. Yeah, then it's fine. It's fine right side of the bottom above average.
I'm only bringing this up because it came up in chat, and just so we can maybe talk about it.
Yeah.
Right. I feel like that's actually a good idea.
So if bio modeled moves, you want to move it to average. Is it at the top of the averages?
Wow. Man.
I think
this-
it's definitely below lows,
Yeah, it is.
but where after that, I'm not sure. Maybe, yeah, I was gonna say maybe above exploit.
I think this is a card that might move around a lot. I mean, I don't know if I feel comfortable dropping it that low, but we'll go with majority wins. I could see it moving more to above average, slotting it in an average slot here. Okay.
Cool.
So I'm thinking. So here's a card that people keep bringing up, and I'm fine to talk about why. I'm fine with where it is, but the card is Maw. So some people in the chat think that Maw needs to get bumped. So I don't know if I like that yet.
I'm not on board with that right now.
Yeah.
If you can, yeah. I mean, I know the pack is still fresh, and so and it hasn't really fluctuated yet. We haven't seen a lot of people really diving into Netrunner competitively because people were waiting for calls on the MWL. So, globally, some of these cards still sit very pocketed in local metas. Nothing has flushed out fully yet. I don't really. I don't see the value of this card. Looking at everything about this card, it's not the dominant choice in faction, right? So it loses a little bit there. It's high cost. It's very high on the influence for a console, so I don't see it moving out of faction. Other consoles in faction give 2 memory, so it's not like this is the huge memory boost that you're looking for. I just don't see a lot of movement here with Ma at the moment. I mean, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I think that you're right, Jameson. I think that the combination of the cost of the card and, to me, the big one, like the big deal, is that Cipher's still what it is.
Yeah.
Like, basically, when you look at Maul, the question you should ask yourself, if you are playing an Anarch deck, what's the likelihood that you're going to use this console over Cipher if Cipher is available like this card? Because Cipher's not on the most wanted list yet. Like, Cipher's not on the most wanted list yet. I assume it will be later. But for sure, like, if I have an option, I'm pretty sure that Cipher's going to find better uses, especially when it's built around a bit more, comparatively. Now, yes, Cipher's overpowered. There's no question about that, right? But knowing it is currently a playable card, is likely the biggest deterrent of playing this card. And I think that's why this card gets rated below average at the time being. Should something change? Because I have a feeling it might end up moving up as we look at more cards. But should the meta change, if for some reason Cipher goes on the most wanted list, I think that's grounds for definitely taking another look at Maul, for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's the whole point of this breakdown of doing card reviews, right, like this, so we can fluctuate and change and talk about how cards are moving and doing stuff, and it's not hard, stoning something into a rating, right? We've built this system so we can be fluctuating, but at this point in time, and with this current card pool that we're dealing with and these game restrictions, I can't see Ma being the option that it is.
Yeah.
Um,
I just feel like the issue is you just have to compare it to other consoles and faction.
Yeah. I mean, like, and that's what we're saying. We're not saying like in a vacuum you can look at it and yes, it's cool. Yes, it's good. But when you're comparing it with the card pool and about competitive decks and things like that,
yeah.
but is the chat saying that Ma is better than Cipher?
Let me
I'm reading something out of context there because I just looked up and see it, but I don't see that. Now that being said, the rest of the support cards for Ma have not come out. We haven't seen the Anarch associated with this, right? We haven't seen that ID and the cards that will build off that ID's ability yet. So that's why it could be open to move, but as of right now, I don't know.
Yeah. I will say that Ma is what makes to me what's funny about the whole Ma situation also is that the card I think is appropriately costed. Isn't that crazy, Corey? Isn't that idea crazy that you could have a console that can be powerful and appropriately costed? Like, I feel like the card's actually appropriately like cost for what it does. 2 MU, and the first time each turn you access a card not in archives and do not steal or trash it. The corp must trash one card from HQ at random. The at random discard is pretty strong. It just happens to not be as strong as the current big ice that you want to be 0 strength is 0 strength at will. Once per turn. Like that's solid. Also, like they're both very solid. So yeah, we live in a Cipher world, fam. We live in a Cipher world. different world.
Yeah, it just came out and ruined it for everybody.
Yeah.
Sorry. You can just blame that console for why. Criminal's been dealing with a Desperado forever.
Yeah.
So, Anarch can deal with it now, where it's just like, oh, this console exists in my faction.
Yep.
Cool. So, guys, I think that's where we're gonna pump the pause on our what is this Station 1 breakdown, man.
Yeah, we'll do the corp
Loud.
side, I guess, next week.
And yeah, the corp side we'll look at next week, and who knows, maybe more fluctuation will happen on the runner side. So we'll review runner, and then we'll get into the corp landscape at that point. Guys, really appreciate everyone joining us in chat. We really appreciate all the feedback. We love to have the discussions. So if you don't agree with us, we love to hear it. I mean, until things flush out, really, who's wrong, who's right? Nobody knows. But this is, hey, this is just the thoughts of three guys and a whole whack of people in a chat
Three
room.
randos.
Yeah.
But we appreciate it, and thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Yeah. You guys take care. Thank you for listening.
Have a good night, everyone.
Bye for now. Sign off.